What a treat. Thank you all for coming today to the UPPF Symposium and award ceremonies. This is always a wonderful day for us and for our program and for UIC. Let's see if I can get this thing to stop ringing. I am Joe Hoereth. I am Director of the Institute for Policy and Civic Engagement. And as I just mentioned, I'd like to welcome you to the UPPF, the Urban Public Policy Fellows Program, Symposium and Reception for 2025. The program, UPPF as we call it, is a public policy leadership development program that was created in 2009 to connect civic engagement to the mission of the Institute with the need for non-curricular stuff outside the classroom, non-curricular leadership development programming on campus. Every year the program selects between 20 and 25 students who participate in weekly seminars, an internship with a policy or community-based organization, and complete a research project that they present at a research conference, like right here, as well as other research conferences that some of our fellows have presented at. The program seeks to build leadership development potential of these students by exposing them to policy issues, helping them develop critical thinking and public speaking skills, supporting in-depth inquiry into a policy issue, and providing practical experience with an organization that is working on policy issues at the ground level. So, today's showcase creates space and opportunity for the fellows to articulate a position and recommendations on a policy issue of their interest, based on in-depth research that they have done using a poster as a vehicle, and you see the posters over there, for that articulation. Being able to do this, to do a deep dive on a policy issue of their interest, and to have a perspective on that issue that is supported by evidence, with a clear argument, and being able to express that and communicate and defend that perspective to the public are all elements of the kind of well-informed leadership that is so desperately needed in our democracy at this time. To our fellows, I say, congratulations, but also think of today and this research as not just the requirement of the program, but as a step on your leadership journey, modeling in a small way something you'll be doing more of on a regular basis in your life, no doubt, because you are well on your way to being those leaders that we need. But just think of this as one tool in your toolbox that you will use beyond UIC. And consider the ways you can utilize this work beyond the scope of this program. So today, as we honor the end of another UPPF program year, this session is actually the culmination of one of the most important responsibilities that we have at UIC, which is preparing the next generation of leaders, especially leaders from underrepresented backgrounds here at UIC. As always, I want to thank our program partners, LARES, AAAN. As members of our management team, LARES and AAAN contribute to all aspects of the program, but most importantly, the recruitment of program participants, seminars, and a wide range of supports that students need. UPPF would not be what it is without our program partners, and thank you for your contribution to this program. And finally, I want to thank Dean Stacy Swearingen-White, Dean of the College of Urban Planning and Public Affairs, where our institute resides, as well as Provost Colley and Chancellor Miranda for their leadership of our campus. I do want to acknowledge the program partners for this program who may be in attendance. Now, these are folks and organizations who host our fellows at their internship sites. So any of those folks that are here today, I think I have the list here, sorry. I'll just call out the name of your organization. If you're in the room or representative, please just raise your hand so we can acknowledge you. UIC Center of Excellence in Maternal and Child Health, Metropolitan Tenants Organization, Hispanic Federation, Great Cities Institute, the Office of Senator Celina Villanueva, our keynote speaker, 12th Ward Office of Alderwoman Julia Ramirez. Got the folks? All right, thank you. Office of Illinois State Representative Norma Hernandez. Somebody here? Okay, folks. All right, cool. Salon Wellness Center. Beyond Legal Aid. Cook County Department of Research Operations and Innovation. Anyone from there? The Chicago Community Trust. And Illinois Harm Reduction Recovery Coalition. All right, let's do one round of applause and express our appreciation. So now, I get the privilege of introducing our keynote speaker, State Senator Celina Villanueva, born and raised in Chicago. Senator Villanueva is currently the state senator for the Illinois 12th District. Before joining the Senate, she served in the Illinois House of Representatives as Civic and Youth Engagement Manager at the Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights, another great partner to UPPF, by the way, and Director of Organizing at Chicago Votes, and as Outreach Director for then Cook County Commissioner Jesus Chuy Garcia. When Senator Villanueva was appointed to the Illinois House of Representatives in 2018, she brought voices of her community to the state's capital. Since joining the Illinois legislature, she has worked hard to pass legislation to protect and expand reproductive rights, immigrant rights, workers' rights, and countless other bills that are now law to help improve the lives of Illinoisans. Senator Villanueva was sworn into the Illinois Senate in 2020 and currently serves as the chair of the Revenue Committee. She also sits on the following committees: Appropriations, Labor, Transportation, Criminal Law, and Appropriations, Public Safety, and Infrastructure. Senator Villanueva remains a community organizer at heart, I love to say that part, and continues to uplift marginalized voices in Springfield. Let's give a warm welcome to Senator Villanueva, and of course we want to
Good afternoon, everyone. It's really funny because I always wonder why people want to hear me speak. And I know everybody assumes because they'll be like, oh, politicians, and it's not really. I don't see myself as a politician. I see myself as a policymaker. I see myself as a lawmaker, but I see myself as an organizer more than anything else. And the reality is, and why I see myself in that way is because I view this work as organizing work. As a lawmaker, traditionally, yes, it's an up-down approach, and you kind of tell people what you think the law should be, but that's not my background. That's never been my background. I started working at 14 doing nonprofit work at the same organization that my mother was working in, and so my background is a very different background. It was more of trial by fire, so I got thrown into things, and then eventually somebody told me, oh yeah, this is how you're supposed to do it. So for most of my life, it really has been, you kind of learn it beforehand, before anybody tells you in the more formal aspect, this is what you're supposed to do. So even with organizing, I figured out organizing before I went to an organizing training where somebody finally told me, this is why we do this. This is the theoretical concepts of organizing and why we do things. And then it was like, oh, that makes sense. Instead of me hitting my head against the window all the time. But the reason why I bring that up is because I was recently on my college campus. I am not a UIC grad. I went to the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, but I'm very proud to constantly be at UIC and be so close to UIC all the time. But I was literally there this week, and I was getting an award, a Young Alumni of the Year award from my college. And I was very happy to be young and considered to be young. But B, it was one of those surreal things because I don't actually, I wonder if they knew back then, the people in leadership at the university knew back then what they were inspiring and developing in me when I was an undergrad. And if any of them, because if you would have told me at your age that this is where I would have ended up, all these years later, I wouldn't have believed it. I would have been like, that's not true, that's weird. But I would have also been just like, yeah, that's not a real story. But now I am in charge of, the budget and one of the budgeteers on the Senate side of the state of Illinois. So we're constantly having conversations in my position as revenue chair about where do we put the money that we get from people's taxes, from the revenues of the state of Illinois, and again, using our budget as a values document to say that we value public education. So making sure that it goes into things that we care about, whether it's that, whether it's programs that help support healthcare services and benefit our communities, whether it's violence prevention, like whether it's the real things, the tangible things that people actually need in our community. And so, I don't think that the chancellor and the provost and a lot of the administration that I knew, because I was a very overly involved undergrad on campus, ever thought that this is where I was going to be, and I never knew that. But when I think about what you all are doing and the work that you're doing, you're so much more ahead than I was. Because if you would have told me about policy, it's like I had an inkling of what that is, but being able to do what you did, and I don't know if you noticed, but I walked around to see your posters. I was being very nosy and I was actually looking at them. But how much more equipped you are to look at the world in a different lens. And not the lens of a young person who knows that something's wrong, but the lens of an educated young person who now has that many more skills to be able to determine the issues that impact all of our communities. You're talking about environmental justice, you're talking about healthcare, you're talking about mental health, you're talking about gentrification, you're talking about so many different issues in the projects that you've been working on, and you're no longer looking at it from a lens of someone that might be an outsider or somebody that's looking at something and saying, oh, those poor people. But the thing about policy and the way that I've learned it is that policy should never be developed by people that don't know what's going on or have not felt it. It shouldn't be developed by people that have no idea what it feels like to not know if you're going to be able to make ends meet at the end of the month or not. And unfortunately for most of this country's existence, that's how policy was developed. Some really, really, really rich, wonderful, highly educated people determining that's an issue and we're going to figure out a solution without including the actual people that were impacted by policy. And the reason why I bring up my experience of being on campus is because I like putting myself in positions where I get perspective. And going back to campus, my campus where I enjoyed undergrad, trust me, I enjoyed it. I had a great time as an undergrad. But giving myself the perspective of like, wow, the dreams and hopes and aspirations that I had at 21, at 20, compared to I'm about to be 40, like it's very weird. But thinking about how much of the same values I still hold on to, but how different my lens is now that I've lived all of these years, but also how much more entrenched it is in the belief that you cannot develop policy, you cannot develop solutions without people that have been impacted by these issues. And when I read through all of your projects, that's what I was seeing, was that you're understanding that you aren't necessarily just the academic researching, and just the academic that's looking from the outside in. That you're not an anthropologist who just kind of comes in to like look at things like that, but that you're understanding policy in the way that it should be understood. That you don't leave people behind. That you don't leave them behind to think and to fend for themselves, but that policy that you're working on is something that is done in community, that is done collaboratively. And so I'm here to reinforce that. I'm here to tell you that that's the best type of policy. That's the policy that changes lives. That's the policy that makes sure that grant programs that weren't available to people before were opened up because it was students from UIC that stood up and said, we need this. And it was students from UIC and NIU and other places who got together and said, we're going to organize together to make this happen, and passed the law to make it happen a few years ago. There's legacies of it, of people coming together and literally showing out in all of these moments to prove the fact that every single time that one of these really, really rich, educated people who tells us that policy is something they develop that only impacts us afterwards, we show them that that's not true. Because the most impactful policy includes all of us. And it includes our voices, and it includes our thoughts, because that's how we change the world. Policy isn't just research. It isn't just the belief that you're looking at something and then there's like, oh, these are some concepts that we can work on. It's like, no, the next step is actually then doing it. And also understanding that in the process of doing it, you're not doing it by yourself. You're doing it with a whole bunch of other people, and you see that. You saw that in the introduction. It's not just one organization that's here. It's not just one student that's here, or one student that's represented one community that's here. There's a whole very diverse group of you, along with a whole bunch of the departments, a very diverse group of departments, but also organizations, offices that are here that have said, yes, we want to have a student. And yes, rightfully so, because of course, you're going to tell me, yes, we have an intern for you, would you like to house them and they're going to work for you? Yes, absolutely, I'm going to say yes. But also to be able to work on and develop, and this is where I'm going to embarrass Nia-Blessing, but to be able to work with someone like Nia-Blessing for, the past, how long have we been working together? Since last year? But to be able to see her grow and have her become part of the office is incredible. But also for her to see how we do things, and that it's very different. We have constituents that walk by our office and stop by our office all the time just to shoot the breeze, just to talk, because a lot of times they don't have anybody else in their life that wants to talk to them. Or for a sweet treat, because we always got candy in the office, and people are like, oh, I'm just gonna take this little sweet treat home with me. But we have people who walk in and who want to be participating in something, but they don't necessarily know that they're a leader or think that they're a leader. That's your role now. So this experience that you've had in developing this, the research that you've taken, now you have a very specific lens with which to view the work that you are doing and the work that you're going to continue to do in the future. So a bunch of you are probably going to go into policy work. And you're going to be like, oh my God, this is so amazing. And then there's going to be moments where you're going to be like, why am I doing this to myself? Because it's going to take a long time to get some of this done. And then when you get something done, you're going to be like, that's why I'm doing it. Some of you are going to find yourself in a completely different occupation, but you're still going to remember this and still remember the moments of like, oh, yeah, we don't do things without involving everybody. Without involving different stakeholders, community members, without incorporating other voices, because that's the beauty of it. That you don't have to do things alone. But ultimately what you take from here is that point of view, that way to view the world, because that's what changes the world at the end of the day. And if there's nothing else that you take away from this internship, from your college experience, is that the university is helping you to develop your leadership, but you were already leaders. The rest of us, we're here just to support you all and to help to develop a little bit more, because none of us have gotten to the places that we've gotten to by ourselves. I've had a ton of mentors, I have a ton of thought partners, I have a ton of people that saw something in me that they said, you know what, we're gonna help cultivate this. And you all have the same thing, because you wouldn't be here if somebody didn't see something in you. But now the next job is to do unto others what's been done unto you. To provide that support, to provide that ability, to provide the opportunity for other people. So if you take something from this, remember that. A, you're not doing anything by yourself and you shouldn't do anything by yourself, especially if it's worth doing. And B, that you always got to think about the next generation that's to come. Because it's not just about doing it yourself and getting one thing done. It is about the continuous work that we do in order to try to improve our lives. I had a whole speech prepared that I did not talk about. And I hope that that all made sense, and if they didn't, then don't tell me about it because I don't want to know about it. But I wanted to share those things because as you continue with your college career, as you go on to the wonderful things that you're going to go on to, just remember these experiences because they're going to help guide you. This is what you're going to remember. Because if I remember feeling that way when I go back to campus, I know you're going to feel that way. But never forget that. Never forget the spirit that you have in you right now to do what is right, to help out and be a problem solver, but to also help be a change maker. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Senator. All right, so we're going to move now on to the portion where we get to hear our fellows present their posters. So fellows, you can start to move on over there and prepare yourselves. The rest of us, we have the next hour to peruse, hear the presentations, have some snacks, network with each other, and then we'll convene in about an hour from now after they've had a chance to tell their stories.